Wanda Cronje, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. You stole my story. So, good afternoon, everyone. Like Wendy says, I'm Wanda Cronje, and everyone has been talking and saying all these wonderful things, so I thought let me go a little bit different and take a different angle. So I'm going to tell you my story. So, like Wendy said, I started at Granger Bay many years ago. I first studied law, by the way. And I always say it's very interesting because when you look at the Cape Wine Masters, there's 4 of us that studied in law. We didn't succeed though, we never actually went into practice. And then I started at Granger Bay in 1992, so it's before most of you were born. And I finished 1994, and I always wanted to go overseas. And while I was at Granger Bay, I had the opportunity to do 3 wine courses. So those of you that are at Granger Bay, you are seeing me all the time. So I did, in my first year, I did a course that was called SA Wine Course, still called SA Wine Course, with the Cape Wine Academy. In my second year, we did Wines of the World, which was a wonderful introduction. And then I went to the UK. And then everything changed, because suddenly, I was the one person, I was like in the land of the blind, the one-eyed person is king. I was that person, because suddenly I knew a little bit more than other people about South African wine. So I started doing a part-time job at a wine store over weekends, selling South African wines. Came back to South Africa and couldn't find a job as a chef, and ended up with the Cape Wine Academy and said to them, can I do some filing? And they said, don't you want to lecture? And the rest is history. It's 22 years later, and I'm still lecturing for the Cape Wine Academy. In the interim, I have completed the certificate course, I did the wine diploma course, and eventually ended up being a Cape Wine Master. I qualified in 2019, yeah. So it's just the other day, but what I'm trying to say to you guys is that my brief for today was talk about what you can become. Okay, so I studied professional cookery, and when you study professional cookery, those of you that are on chef's uniform, you're sort of going, this is my vision, this is my road, this is where I'm going to end up, I'm going to be the next Gordon Ramsay, or Pete Wood, or whoever you want to be. But you know what? Your road will change. And I think that is what I actually want to say to you. Don't get fixated on something. Follow your passion, because that is what is important. So if wine becomes your passion, like it became mine, and people is still my passion. Food, wine, and people are my passions. And I'm in the wonderful situation where I can actually combine all those things all the time. Because what I give to people on a daily basis, I tell them about the wonderful stories in the South African wine industry. Because we have got stories. Guys, if you look at South Africans, if you look at Africans, what is the one thing we all love to do? Never mind eat, never mind drink. We all love to skinner. You know what? When you tell a story, it is skinner. Okay? So make it good skinner. Tell the stories of the chefs, tell the stories of the food, tell the stories of the wine, because that is how you create passion for something. That is how you create a lasting memory, and that is what you need to give people. So those of you that are chefs and that are going to be chefs for the rest of your life, fantastic. Those of you that are baristas and halfway through being a barista decide, you know what, let's branch into wine, let's branch into olive oils, go for it. Because that is the wonder of food and wine. So you can start in one direction and end up being completely different. Okay, and I'm going to take, where is JB now? Mr. Redon there at the back, he's a sommelier. He's going to talk to you about that world. But that is the magic, guys. When you begin in food, and I think a big part of your heritage is actually in food. When you begin in food, you don't have to end in food. You can go and you can take wine and make it part of your world. And that is what I invite you to do. Because you know what, these two things, they speak to one another. Food and wine talk, they speak the same language. And all you need to do is you need to make that pairing and tell the story. And when you do that, you can end up being a chef, you can end up being in magazines, where's that gentleman gone? You can end up being on TV, you can end up working on a wine farm in a kitchen or front of house or in a tasting room, you can be a sommelier, you can go on the cruise liners and be a wine steward. In my year at Granger Bay, one of my best friends was a guy by the name of Anton Wittenborg. So when we finished studying, Anton was like, oh, I don't know what to do, what am I going to do? He said, okay, fine, you know what, Cunard Lines, I don't know if you know who Cunard is, one of the biggest or most prestigious cruise lining companies in the world. They've got the Queen Mary, the Queen Victoria, the QE2, Queen Elizabeth II, those are all their liners. So Anton went to this presentation and ended up going on the QE2. So he is now the procurement manager for Cunard Lines, 22 years later. Right? That is what your possibilities are. You can go and become one of those people. You can buy things for cruise liners that sail the world. I had the very great opportunity when the QE2 was here a few years ago. Anton took me from the 17 decks, by the way. He took me from where the forklifts bring in the wine to where the captain that sails that ship sits at the top. And the one thing that really excited me, he took me to every single restaurant and every single wine bar on the liner. And the photos that I took were of ports from 1947. Now, guys, that is just after the Second World War. And they have those wines on board. Okay? People actually buy them. When you have the opportunity to travel, and some of you, when you win this competition, you will have that opportunity. You know what? The world is your oyster. You cannot just go, okay, I'm going here. This is where I'm going. I'm going to this town, wherever it is. I'm just going to be here. You need to actually stick your fingers into pies that you don't know exist, really. You need to go and explore. You need to taste things. You need to experience things, because that is what life is all about. Okay. So when we look at the industry that I am in, I ended up, if you said to me, the reason why I stopped, by the way, I'm sidetracked now, but anyway, the reason why I stopped studying law is in my second year, they said to us, you have to do orals. I said, there's no way in hell. There is no way in hell that I'm ever going to be able to stand up and talk in front of people. Yet, I do it every single day now. Why? Because it is my passion. Because when I look at you guys and you're all sitting here going, I'm so tired, I've been here since this morning, and they have all these people, they're all so vibrant and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and I just want to sleep because you've all been fed now as well. Right? But you know what, guys? The big thing is, if you find your passion, if you lecture, if you end up being a lecturer, and there are some of the lecturers here today, if you end up being a lecturer and you stand in front of a group of people, there's 10% in those eyes that the lights go on. That is why we lecture. We lecture for those 10% where the lights go on. Right? So I'm inviting you to switch your lights on. I'm inviting you. You were chosen to be here today because your lecturers see your future, but you have to take the first step. Okay? So take the first step. Be brave, because you don't always know where that first step is going to lead. But the world is out there. It's an amazing world. The world of food and wine is it's ever changing. And you will create things that we didn't even know existed. You will create experiences that some of us might never have. But you know what? It is your responsibility and your duty to then come back and tell the rest of us about it. Okay? So whatever it is that you decide to do in this industry, just make it exciting. Okay? Thank you very much.